Tonight, you might eat dinner alone. Nothing dramatic will happen. The food will taste the same. The chair will feel the same. You'll wash the plate, same as always, and go on with your evening. But somewhere inside your body, right now, something is quietly keeping score. Because your body cannot fully tell the difference between being alone and being in danger. And if it decides, for long enough, that you are in danger, it responds exactly the way it would to a real physical threat. If you smoked half a pack of cigarettes today, you'd probably feel something: a cough, a tightness in your chest, some small proof in your body that you had done something to it. But what if you were doing something just as damaging and felt absolutely nothing at all? Here is what most people believe about loneliness: that it's a feeling, sad, maybe, uncomfortable, maybe, but ultimately harmless, something that lives entirely in your head and stays there. You feel a little quiet inside. You tell yourself to toughen up, keep busy, and move on. It seems like a private matter, something between you and your own thoughts, with no real consequence beyond a low mood. But your body was never listening to that story. Because loneliness isn't only an emotion your mind produces, it's a signal, and your body takes it every bit as seriously as hunger or thirst or pain. To understand why, you have to go back a very long way. For nearly all of human history, being separated from your group was one of the most dangerous things that could happen to a person. Alone, there was no one to watch your back while you slept, no one to help fight off a predator or carry you home if you were injured. Survival meant staying close to others, almost without exception. So evolution built you an alarm. A researcher named John Cacioppo spent much of his career studying loneliness, and he described that alarm in a strikingly simple way. Loneliness, he argued, works the same way hunger does. Hunger isn't a punishment, it's a signal pushing you toward food, because food keeps you alive. Loneliness, Cacioppo proposed, is the very same kind of signal, except instead of pushing you toward food, it pushes you toward people. That uncomfortable, hollow feeling of being alone is your body sounding an old and simple alarm. Get back to the group. You are not safe out here by yourself. For most of history, that alarm did exactly its job. It sent you back to the fire, back to your family, and then, once you were surrounded again, it quietly switched off. But what happens when the alarm can't switch off? When, for whatever reason, the isolation doesn't end, and the signal just keeps ringing, week after week, year after year. A researcher named Steve Cole found part of the answer by looking not at how lonely people felt, but at what their genes were actually doing. He studied people who described themselves as chronically lonely and compared the activity of their genes to people who felt socially connected. What he found was striking. In the bodies of lonely people, a whole cluster of genes involved in inflammation were switched up, running hotter than usual. And at the very same time, genes that help the body fight off viruses were switched down, running quieter than they should. It was as if the body of a lonely person was quietly preparing for an attack from other people, while lowering its guard against an attack from a virus. Your body, still running on very old instructions, treats social isolation the way your ancestors' bodies treated a genuine physical threat. It readies itself for injury. It inflames. And chronic inflammation, left running quietly in the background for years, is tangled up with some of the most serious conditions of aging: heart disease, stroke, a weaker defense against illness of every kind. The danger was never really just in your head, it was in your bloodstream the whole time. So exactly how serious is this signal, left running for years on end? In 2010, a researcher named Julianne Holt Lundstad set out to answer that question properly, at a scale no one had attempted before. She gathered data from more than 100 separate studies, following the health of over 300,000 people over time. She wanted to know, mathematically, how strongly a person's social connections actually predicted whether they were still alive years later. The answer startled the entire field of public health. People with weak social connections carried a risk of dying that was comparable to smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day, comparable to obesity, comparable to never exercising at all. Loneliness did not simply make people feel worse. Statistically, across hundreds of thousands of lives, it was shortening them at a scale that put it in the very same conversation as one of the most well-known health hazards there is. This wasn't actually a brand new discovery. It had been hiding quietly in the data for decades, waiting for someone to add it all up. Back in 1979, a researcher named Lisa Berkman had already found the first strong clue. She followed nearly 7,000 people in Alameda County, California, for 9 years, tracking who stayed healthy and who didn't. People with fewer social ties, she found, were dying at significantly higher rates than people with strong ones. And the pattern held even after she accounted for smoking, for drinking, for exercise, for every other health habit she could measure. It wasn't explained away by the usual suspects. Something about the connection itself, all on its own, seemed to matter for how long a person lived. And here is why this deserves your attention now, perhaps more than at almost any other point in your life. As the years pass, the world has a way of quietly narrowing around you. Retirement removes the daily colleagues you used to see without even trying. Children grow up and move to their own homes, their own cities. Old friends, one by one, become harder to reach by phone, move away, or are simply no longer here at all. None of this happens all at once, with a single dramatic day you could point to. It happens the way most important things happen to a body, slowly, quietly. Without any alarm bell, you can actually hear ringing. You might feel perfectly fine most days, and the inflammation can still be rising underneath, exactly the way it can with any silent condition. But here is where this story turns, and it turns towards something genuinely hopeful. Unlike your age or your family history, loneliness is remarkably responsive to change. Researchers studying real interventions have found that even modest increases in genuine social contact, not enormous ones, are associated with meaningful improvements in both mood and in the very biological markers we've been talking about. And here's something that might surprise you. It isn't really about the number of people around you. Some people are surrounded by a full house, a busy family, a crowded room, and still feel entirely alone inside it. Other people have a small, quiet circle of just one or two and feel completely at home in it. What seems to matter most is the quality of the connection, not the size of the crowd around you. One phone call where someone truly listens. One regular visit you can count on. One small group you belong to, even loosely, where people would notice if you didn't show up. So if there is one action hiding inside all of this science, it's a small one. Reach out to one person today. Call rather than text if you're able to. Say yes to the invitation you'd normally quietly decline. And if loneliness has settled in deeply, and it feels heavy, constant, or hard to lift on your own, that is absolutely worth talking to your doctor about too. Sometimes the body and the heart need a little help finding their way back to other people, and there is no weakness at all in asking for that help. So think again about tonight's dinner. You may still eat it alone. That part might not change today, and that's all right. But now you know something your body has known all along. That the quiet in the room isn't nothing. It's a signal, every bit as real and as biological as hunger, quietly asking you to reach toward the people who are still there. Answer it, even in some small way, even just once this week. And you are not only feeling a little better, you are doing something for your body that is every bit as real as putting down a cigarette.